Hey there, thanks so much for joining me today. Let me bring up my profile here and make sure that everything's loaded correctly. So today I'm going to be talking about mutual exclusion groups. This is an aspect of Dorico Expression Maps, and it really is a big time saver to understand what they're about. I don't think that a lot of people know either what they are or really how to use them constructively. So I wanted to give a demonstration of the kind of problems you might have where you're getting unreliable playback or your samples are not being triggered in the way that you might expect. Mutual exclusion groups can really help solve that. Understanding and wrapping your head around what mutual exclusion groups does is going to be really critical to any expression map development. If you're creating your own custom expression maps and you are not even aware of what's going on in mutual exclusion groups, you're probably being forced to write exceedingly complex expression maps. So let's just look at a very simple demo here. I'm not going to take myself off screen because I'm going to keep talking, but just behind me over here on over my shoulder, you can see, let me zoom in a little bit here. So I'm going to play this back, and you're going to hear, this is just, a default sample playback. Okay, so what I've got there is, actually I will take myself off so that I'm not obscuring anything. So what I've got here is a very basic little tune, but everything's playing with very basic articulations, right? So how is this being triggered? Well, up in my expression map, well, I'll go to the play mode here, and I've selected my violin, and over here in expression maps, sorry, I'm a little new to this zoom effect. I've created this exclusion group demo expression map, but you can choose whatever expression map that you need from this drop-down list. Okay, and let's take a look at what's in this expression map. So I've just got three basic articulations: natural, which is what you're hearing right now, staccato, and legato. And so the natural right now, I'm using channel switching, so it's going over Vienna Ensemble Pro or VE Pro on channel 1, and I am sending a control change 70 value of 0. That's all configured in my VE Pro instance to trigger a standard sustain sample. Now legato is triggering a value of 2 on 70. That loads a legato patch that has legato transitions. So you can see this is 0, that's 2. Now staccato, that actually goes out over channel 3. The channel change 70 is still set to 0, like it is with natural, but over a different channel it gets me staccato. Now that's just my configuration for managing different articulations. Welcome Shivas, thank you so much for joining me today. So the aspect of this that can get unreliable is where you just say mark that phrase as legato, and maybe you're getting legato playback, maybe not. Even more confusing, what if you marked some of the notes in the legato under the slur as staccato? Let's take a look at that, right? So take myself off the screen here. Now let's say that we'll cover some very from the real basics here. I've disabled my legato, and I think I've disabled my staccato as well here. Sorry. Sorry, somebody was calling me and I got distracted. But I've got only natural is enabled here. So when I go ahead and I mark this phrase, let's say as legato, and I put a slur over it like that, I'm still getting exactly the same playback. It has a detached sound, as you can hear. Welcome, Rich. Thanks for joining me. Yes, happy Thanksgiving. So there's no difference whether I have legato or not, and so this may be too basic, but is worth pointing out. That's because in my expression map, sorry, I don't have a legato enabled. So in my expression map here, I've got legato created, but it's not enabled over here. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that. Now you're going to see that I get the legato transitions. It's much smoother. It doesn't sound detached. So that's with legato, this is without. Right, much more detached. Now let's say that I am going to have the legato, but I want these 2/8 to sound a little bit more punctuated. So we're going to turn them into staccatos. And let's see what happens now. There's no difference, right? So we think to ourselves, okay, well, let's go back into our expression map and we'll create this staccato and we'll make sure that's enabled, right? Our problems should be solved, but let's play back and hear. It made no effect. Now, typically at this point, people start pulling their hair out and screaming and cursing the developers of Dorico. However, Dorico's developers have come up with a very graceful solution to this. It just has a bizarre name and may not be all that familiar to people until they really, really dig in or have to solve this kind of problem. Now, I'm going to explain what the problem is, why that staccato is not triggering, even though it is in your expression map. And that's because the expression map it's ambiguous right now. There's a staccato articulation in the expression map, but this is legato and staccato, and we can actually see that. And take myself off the screen. We can actually see, so this is the note here, and if I select it, sorry, as I said, I'm getting used to this zoom feature. So I've got this note selected, right? But down here, it says legato and staccato. So it's not just looking for a staccato technique. It's looking for legato plus staccato. So at this point, we have a couple of options. We can go into our expression map and we can actually create a very highly specific articulation that is literally legato plus staccato, and then what to do in that case. But that leads us down this real rabbit hole. Let's say you wanted to make a note tremolo, but you also want it sul tasto, and you want it in legato. Now you're creating, legato, legato and sul tasto, legato and tremolo and sul tasto. And before you know it, your expression map is got 500,000 articulations in it. It's driving you crazy, and the likelihood that you're making an error is off the charts. So there's a much better way, and that is mutual exclusion groups. So essentially what a mutual exclusion group does is it allows us to tell Dorico to never combine these two, right? So there's never going to be a case where a violinist is going to play a staccato note or a staccato articulation and a legato articulation. They are mutually exclusive because a staccato is by definition a detached articulation, whereas legato is obviously, the whole point is it's not detached. It's a smooth transition from pitch to pitch. So we can safely say that we never want our sample library to play back a legato and staccato, that if it's either one or the other. And by putting that reasoning into a mutual exclusion group, we will get our playback much more reliably without ever having to worry about, oh, was this staccato that I marked underneath legato? Again, like you could say, you could create a mutual exclusion group that says, tremolo and trill are mutually exclusive. There's so many situations where this can drive people crazy in expression maps. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off topic. I just want to demonstrate this. So we want to get this staccato note to play back as staccato. So a simple solution, the simplest solution, is we go back into our expression maps. We've got the staccato set up, we've got the legato, that's all fine. We're going to go down to this little mysterious zone here called mutual exclusion groups. Now, if you have Dorico Pro, this will generate mutual exclusion groups automatically. And it's doing legato and non-legato. That makes sense. You can't play both legato and non-legato simultaneously. But I want to add to this legato a staccato articulation. So I have to uncheck this create mutual exclusion groups automatically in order to make an edit. I'm going to go ahead and add staccato. Now we have these three things in a list. Now what this is basically saying is, as long as you're using this expression map, then legato and staccato are mutually exclusive. They cannot occur at the same time. And that means that even though this down here is technically under legato, you can see now that it's gone from trying to identify legato plus staccato to just identifying staccato, and now we get the playback correctly. Let's take it a step further. Let's say that we wanted to make this tremolo, like that. What's it doing? Well, it's sort of doing some weird stuff there because we don't really have a tremolo set up. So I could go in here and I could say, this one I did not prepare, but let's say we do tremolo. And in my setup, I have to look briefly at my setup here. In my setup, I have tremolo set up on channel 8. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to just set this to channel 8. And I'm just going to use CC70 as 0. This is a value that's telling my orchestral tools sign player for the Berlin series which particular patch to play. Now I've got tremolo set up, and let's see what happens now. Does it play back? It does, and that's great. So as you can see, it's correctly assigning tremolo to here, even though it's under legato. And if we go back to our expression map and we check out these mutual exclusion groups, there's probably some mechanism by which the tremolo is being identified as its own thing instead of legato. So that's saved me a little bit of time. And as you can see from this example, you know, until you have a lot of experience setting up expression maps, understanding what you're actually setting up when you add bass switches and add-ons, and then how exclusion groups can either get in the way or not even function. All of these different aspects can contribute to a sense of real insecurity and a lack of confidence when it comes to setting up your library to get reliable playback. So I want to offer a couple of tips about how to go about using mutual exclusion groups. First thing is, think about your longs and your shorts and allow them to be in mutual exclusion groups together. So staccato, staccatissimo, and spiccato, for example, are mutually exclusive. You're not going to be playing those three at the same time. You're not going to be playing spiccato or staccatissimo or staccato with legato. So those should also be in a mutual exclusion group with legato. The way to approach creating mutual exclusion groups in your head, because I think that the term mutual exclusion group that's such a Steinberg term. It's like, it's spot on, but it also just really hard to intellectualize and have a friendly relationship with a term like that. But the common sense way to deal with this is to think about, okay, what's the articulation that you want to hear? Creating a mutual exclusion group that starts there. Let's say legato. I generally want to have a detached and a legato sort of exclusion groups. Within the detached, I'm going to list all the things that are not detached, like legato. Then under the legato, I'm going to list all the things that are not legato, like staccatissimo or spiccato, things like that. And then start there. Start with the mutual exclusion groups that make sense. At the very least, if you've already created complex expression maps in the past and you want to go back and apply mutual exclusion groups to get more reliable playback, go back and look at the mutual exclusion groups that Dorico Pro has automatically generated for you. They might be spot on. A lot of times they really are, like this example here with the tremolo, but there are probably some other weird things going on, maybe where, you know, sul tasto is not being allowed on legato automatically, but you'd say to yourself, well, actually, I do want to allow sul tasto. So you'd remove that from your mutual exclusion group with legato. So wrap your head around this. Watch the video a couple times if you need. If you have questions about this, please do post in the comments. This is really an important and foundational element of creating expression maps that you get reliable playback from. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. I do videos a few times a week. I'm not going to be on this Friday because it's Thanksgiving and I need a vacation. I'm going to take the days that I have to enjoy a little bit of extra time, but I did want to come out on Wednesday here. This is my sort of de facto, going to be here around noon every Wednesday and upload other videos as I can. If you have questions, post them in the comments. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you on Monday. I think it's December 1st, probably with another live stream. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care, guys. Bye.